Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you haven't heard my interview with Mike Michalowicz, check it out. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book and understand the system, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. The goal of this podcast is to help you, the business owner, understand your financial numbers so you can make better decisions. Understand that 80% of business owners don't understand their numbers. You are not alone. We just don't talk about it, and I'm changing that. Today, we have Ruth Urban, a Profit First bookkeeper, who's going to share her journey with Profit First and how it changed her business. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man show, Ruth Urban. It's great to have you.
Hey, thank you, Rocky. Thanks for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. So let's start off. Can you share with the audience a little bit about your business?
Certainly. I have a business, and it's called On the Money. And on the Money, we have a team of bookkeepers and accountants, all being highly qualified in that they have accounting or finance degrees or better, are certified in various versions of QuickBooks, and have business experience as well. And we work with a small business community, and by that I mean anything up to about $25 million in revenue. And we help them. Not only do we get their books accurate for them, but we help them understand what they're looking at so that they can use that as a tool for their business growth.
And that's a big part of it. I think a lot of times business owners don't know what they're looking at, nor do they look at them. And that's a shame, because without having that kind of knowledge, you can't make the best business decisions. So we're here today to talk about Profit First, and you actually started implementing Profit First in your business. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be?
Absolutely. About a year and a half ago, so the beginning of 2019, I bought the book. I have this really bad habit of reading business books halfway through and then setting them aside. Interesting concept. And then was contacted by an attorney in a networking group I belong to. That attorney said, "Hey, I've read this book, Profit First. What do you think about it? Do you do that in your firm?" And I was very honest with her and said, I've read half the book. Seems like a cool idea. I don't think I'm the right person to give you advice around it, though. But I'll finish the book, and then I'll let you know what I think and do some research. So I did. And I immediately started, as I was reading, it's like I just wanted to do something. So I set up a profit account and not necessarily following the true Profit First system initially. I just threw 10% of all revenue in there. I just wanted to see something. Of course, as that starts growing, it becomes pretty darn exciting. Finished the book, and not only thought it was a great system for me and my business, but all of our clients own small businesses. And I thought, wow, what a great tool for them to become profitable. I think I want to help them with that. So I contacted Profit First headquarters over in New Jersey and started the process of becoming certified in it. Set up all my own accounts and got that started. And I will tell you that a year and a half later in COVID, I couldn't be more grateful that came into my life. When I did, certainly have those savings put aside to get me through a little bit of a downturn when COVID hit.
And that's important. And that's what I notice a lot of my clients doing who use Profit First is they build up those cash vault accounts so that when they hit a storm, they can survive the storm and be able to do it. And COVID is one kind of storm, but there's a multitude of storms that we will always, as business owners, certainly face. And so we should do our best to prepare for them and be ready. So how did it change your ability to build profit over time then compared to where you were before Profit First?
Well, it's such a great tool to really examine where your money's coming from, but more importantly, where you're spending it. I've always run a pretty lean organization. In fact, at the beginning, I'm like, I don't think I can really cut anything out of here. But when you go through line by line of your expenses, you start seeing it. The other piece of it that I think is really important, we've been growing in revenue, so I had more cash available. But this made it very clear. It's like, I have a certain amount to spend on operating expenses, but I'm not going to touch the rest of it. So when someone tried to sell me redoing my website, for example, or, an advertisement, different types of things that are constantly being thrown at business owners, I was able to easily make that decision, in most cases, not to do it, because that money wasn't accounted for in my operating budget.
And that's what happens a lot of times. I think we are always chasing the shiny object. Oh, I need a new website. And yes, I've got to invest in my business. It makes sense. What I try and tell business owners is $1 in revenue is not equal to $1 in spending. So if you want to spend $1 on a website, there's a good chance for many business owners that you need to bring in $20 in revenue to cover that one additional dollar of spending towards your website. And I don't think we think that way. And Profit First forces you to think that way and to physically see it within your bank account. It forces you to actually make those calculations and realize how much in revenue you need to bring in to justify the additional dollar in spending.
Rocky, you're absolutely right. And it brings to mind a story that I haven't shared with you yet. But I had purchased a business in 2000, right after 9/11, basically. And that business was a florist that specialized in special events. And after 9/11, all travel stopped. There were no special events. It really was brutal. But what was happening was everybody came to me to be my savior. It was my first experience in business. So, you know what? I could get an ad in the Wedding Chronicle for $5,000, or I could participate in a bridal show, and that was $5,000 or $6,000. And, they were trying to help me, and I took that very sincerely. But the reality is that spending more money isn't what I needed right then. And I think back often to that and saying, wow, if I had this kind of tool, then I certainly, that business, I believe, would have succeeded where it did not. It failed. So that's why I apply it to my clients. It's like, you know what? This is going to help them succeed, which is what our focus has been since I started this business.
So do you have any client success stories?
I haven't done a great job of marketing. I'm going to be upfront about it. The attorney that contacted me, we're working with her, and she's a happy little camper. And she's an example of a startup, so she didn't have a lot of bookkeeping involved. And, there wasn't that much there to work with, but we're really seeing as she's growing and she's doing quite well, that it's really helping her again, make those decisions as she grows. We also have, I guess, for the best description of her is a financial advisor that we're working with, who just loves it. So she's been very happy. She's been very, very successful. She most likely would have survived either way, but she is paying herself really good money based on the fact that she's putting that money aside to pay herself first.
And that's a mindset shift for business owners is you need to pay yourself first. Usually we put ourselves last, and that's not fair. You took the risk. You took the effort to do this. You should put yourself first. So one of the nice things with Profit First is it handles tax consequences. As you grow, and you talked about it, you're a business that's growing, your tax bill goes up. But usually most accountants work in the rear view mirror mode, and they don't always plan for these increases in taxes. Has this helped you with regards to that?
Oh, it's been amazing. First of all, just the way your mind shifts when you don't have to think about, oh my gosh, I made too much money. What am I going to do in April? That stuff. But I also tell you, I have a CPA that's probably been with me, not even a year, that does my tax returns for me. And we recently had a conversation. I said, hey, I need you to look at this. Do I need to make some shifts mid-year? And he answered me with what he thought I needed to do. But he said that, he said, oh my gosh, I looked at your balance sheet and you've got reserves for all this, and well done. And what a compliment for me as a bookkeeping firm, having my CPA say well done as far as having the money set aside for the taxes, it was pretty cool.
And that's the thing. And it's funny because I notice most CPAs don't tell their business owners to set up reserves, and they don't kind of almost force them to take the action they need to so that they are prepared for this. And right now, I know a lot of companies have taken PPP loans, and I guess it's still a toss-up on whether or not your PPP forgiveness is a taxable event or not. So a lot of companies, depending on where this all ends up, may have a massive surprise come next April if the forgiveness dollars become taxed.
That's really frightening. We have advised our clients from day one, if they got a PPP loan, is to assume that it's a loan. Please do not assume that it's a gift. And then, it started out with, well, you know what? This isn't going to be a taxable amount of money that we're giving and or loaning to you. But the next ruling I hear from the IRS is, we won't tax the income, but the expenses that you're spending on it aren't deductible. It's the same thing, So, I look at, we have a small PPP loan, and I look at that, and it's like, that's one of the things I said to my CPA is, you need to remember that out of those reserves, some of that is PPP money. So our income is going to be higher than we had anticipated.
And so what I'm doing with my clients who have PPP is they put their PPP money in a separate account to begin with. And then as they spend it to pay their payroll, what we do is we also put a portion aside for taxes at the same point. So they'll spend the money, they'll pull it out of the separate account so they physically know that they're taking this PPP money. They know how much to take because they know what payroll is. And then they also set aside for taxes so that they are covered, that however this goes, they're protected. If it goes to their benefit, woohoo, we get a big, massive check. We can celebrate. If it doesn't, you know what? We don't like it, but we can write the check. And that's an important part of it. Speaking of profit, what do you do with your profit distributions?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's pretty darn fun. So I had my first profit distribution last September. So we're coming up on a year now. And at that point, I had a home equity line of credit, which I paid down half of it in September. And then I took some money and I went on a massive shopping spree. I like clothes, but usually can't buy them in big quantities. So it's just like I just had a blast with that. So it's kind of a really double whammy on that. It's like, oh my gosh, look at what I did to my home equity line of credit. And now I got to go out and have fun as well. And then moving into this year, you start making a little bit of progress, and it's a mindset. But now I am working on paying off my mortgage. I'm a few years away from retirement, so goal initially was let's get this paid off by retirement time. And now it's like, I think using that profit distribution, I can have my mortgage paid off by the end of 2021, and that just will open a whole new world to me. Congratulations.
And I can tell you, when you stop having a mortgage payment, your cash flow skyrockets and you are living on, it's an amazing feeling. We paid off our mortgage a long time ago, and it's just been amazing to just have all that excess cash flow. And we save it and we use it to invest in real estate and do other things with. We don't just go shopping sprees, but it also gives you the flexibility to do both. And we need to enjoy life as well. And you should be rewarded for the hard work you do in your business, but you also should take care of your debt. So you're doing the right things in rewarding yourself because you deserve it, and also doing the appropriate things, paying down debt at the same time. So what are some of the biggest issues you see when you are doing bookkeeping work for your clients?
Well, there's a lot of them. So I'm going to mention a few to you. What happens oftentimes that I think is really dangerous is business owners tend to mix their personal and business expenses, which is a real no-no. I mean, for example, businesses often go out and become an LLC, and the reason they do that is to protect their personal assets. Should anything happen in the business, should they get sued. If you are mixing your personal and your business expenses, that takes away all that protection from the LLC. So you've just wasted a lot of time and money on it. The other thing is that IRS can look at that and see all your personal expenses in your business and declare that you're not a business, that you're a hobby, and then none of your expenses are deductible. So there's a real danger in that. It kind of leads into not having a business bank account. Many people just blend everything together between and throw all their business money into a bank account. It's very difficult to track it. I know that if they're doing it themselves, it might seem easy. They can just put it all in one bank account. But for business purposes, it does you absolutely no good. You can't make any decisions because you have a mess on your hands. You just don't know what's going on. So those are two really big ones.
So having clarity on your finances is important. And as you said, there are legal consequences to not doing things appropriately. So we're going to talk a little bit about financial reports.
Sure.
For the audience, it's okay. We're not going to get into technical terms, but I want to at least teach you a little bit of what to look at. So when we look at the balance sheet for a company, what are the things that you're looking at to kind of get an idea of where they're at?
Yeah. When someone comes to us and wants us to work with them, the balance sheet is the very first thing that we look at. And I can look at a balance sheet in 5 or 10 minutes and tell if there's a problem there. Now, there might be problems I don't see, but there's some that are really red flags. One of them is negative numbers on your balance sheet. The other thing is maybe expenses showing up on your balance sheet. And I think that's just truly a matter of people not knowing where to put things, and they they put it in the wrong categories. What people need to understand is there's a difference between an income statement and a balance sheet. Your income statement is going to track what's happening in your business over a period of time. So we often look at that, January through December income statement. Your balance sheet will tell you where your business is right now. So any moment in time, I can look at mine today, and it's going to tell me what is in my bank accounts. It's going to tell me if it's accurate, it's going to tell me what money that I owe and what assets that I own. So I could also look at it, and maybe it's a landscaping company, and I'm not seeing any kind of landscaping equipment on that balance sheet. There's a problem there, and it lowers the value of your business, which is really important if you ever want to sell it, if you're trying to get a loan, bring in an investor. The balance sheet is just a critical piece of your financials.
And that it is. It tells where you are right now. And you can also look and see what your accounts receivable and accounts payable are. So are your people collecting money, and are they paying out the money that they should be paying out? Of course, always knowing what the cash in the bank is. So that's important. And the other thing is, do we have negative retained earnings, which is basically, are you constantly funding the business out of your pocket, and are you going further and further into the hole? And that all shows up on the balance sheet.
Right. And the flip side of that, Rocky, is that many people bleed their companies dry, and that would show up there as well. So if, they may take the money out before they've paid their expenses or their bills because they want a certain lifestyle, but that's not sustainable.
No, it isn't. And at the end of the day, your cash flow is the most important thing. And what's cool about the Profit First system is it's a cash flow system, and it truly shows you how much cash you have versus the income statement, which is really nice. But the biggest thing I hear from my clients is, my accountant said I was profitable, but I have no cash. And so let's talk a little bit about the income statement. What do you see as some of the biggest issues on the income statement?
And you're so right about that comment. We actually teach a class on that. It's like, why don't I have any money in the bank, or why doesn't my profit on my income statement match what I've got in the bank? So yeah, it's kind of it's sad. It gets kind of amusing as well because we hear it so often. But an easy thing to teach. But it's kind of the flip of the balance sheet. What's on that income statement that doesn't belong there? Oh my gosh. I can see vehicles, where maybe they're paying off a vehicle, and that whole expense is put on their income statement, where the reality is the vehicle is kept track of on the balance sheet, and only the interest expense is on their income statement. Another place is if you've got a negative expense or negative income, there's something not right there. Some people would put their taxes on the income statement. The only part of taxes that belong on an income statement are those that the company pays on behalf of employees. Again, just so many things that you can, pick up out of that. One of the things I like to see on the income statement is more than one stream of revenue. In most cases, they're making income in many ways, and it's really important to be able to look at where the money's coming from so that they can decide whether something's profitable or not. Should they even be doing it? People do not categorize cost of goods sold correctly. So if you're building a widget and you've got parts and materials for that, that goes under cost of goods sold. And I often see that on the income statement.
And that's one of the biggest things I do when I work with my clients is I go through their cost of goods sold and I tie it to the price that they're selling the item for. And we are always looking at the spread between how much did I sell something for and how much did it cost me for that item. And what I have found a lot of times is that there's mistakes in their systems and they're underpricing certain items. And so they can either go back and fix the pricing or decide to no longer sell those items. And the second thing I do is we find out what your most profitable items are. And so if we know where we can make the most money, so let's just say we're going to sell something. If I sell item 1 and I'm going to make $10, but if I sell item 3, I'm going to make $30. Well, which would I rather sell? I would want to sell item 3 because every time I do that, I'm getting 3 times the profit of item 1. I focus my efforts now on item 3 and I start promoting that instead of promoting item 1. And so when you have that information, you make better business decisions.
Right. And, what I see as the strength of working with you, Rocky, is you've got the financial piece of it well understood, but you're also a coach. So you can teach them and help them with their progress towards understanding what they need to do. And I think what you've just described is exactly what a coach does that understands finances. And there's a lot of people that are coaching, but they don't get that piece of it.
Well, and that's true. Most people can say they're a financial coach. What I tell you to do is don't look at what they say. Look at what they do. Look at their personal net worth. Are they financially in the right place or are they not? Because if they're not financially strong, they're never going to make you financially strong because they don't know how to handle money. And that's one of my unique skill sets is I know how to do it's just natural to me. And I never valued it because I didn't realize how important or how that just wasn't natural to everyone else. And so that's a big part of what I do is I teach my clients and I help them to make those better decisions.
Well, I think that's a really important point. So I'm going to nail that home a little bit. Business owners generally, I will tell you, they come to us and they're embarrassed because they don't understand. And I would say as an overall, maybe 80% of the business owners we work with don't understand money at all. But they don't want to tell anybody, so they're not getting the help that they need. So I think as you're talking to potential clients and marketing your services, if they start understanding that they're not alone, that this is where business owners are until they find somebody like you to help them, it just goes, you can make a world of difference.
Thank you for that. And what I tell people, and 80% of business owners have no idea what's going on financially. Of the 20% that are left, 75% of them have an idea, but they're not crystal clear. And what that means is, in reality, only 5% of business owners have clarity on their financials. And that's why you see that small percentage of businesses are thriving and growing, because they have financial clarity and they can make better decisions. And what I do is, for the other 95% of the people, I make you like the 5%. I help you have that clarity. And we do it. I speak to people in a way they can understand. I take away all the big terms. And I also have the entrepreneurial mindset. So I know that you want to chase shiny objects and grow things and do things. And I appreciate that. But what I do is I give you the numbers behind it so that you can make wiser decisions as you chase and you do all your creative stuff. Because that's not my space. That's truly the entrepreneur who does it. But I understand both sides. And so I can help to bring them together so that they can achieve their goals and make the right decisions.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that 5%, interestingly enough, is the percentage of businesses that survive after about 5 years. So you can look at that number many different ways.
Interesting. So is there anything else that we should have mentioned today that we didn't get a chance to?
The only thing I can advise to the audience today is look at your numbers. If you've got questions, ask those. Be proactive. It's kind of like your health, where, go ask the doctor what the heck is going on. The same thing with your numbers is, don't be afraid to look at them. And if you don't understand, ask someone. Get a trusted advisor that can help you with that. The more you understand, the bigger chance you have of thriving really in your business. So just be proactive around your finances, and you're going to be so much better off.
That is so true. And like for me, it's a no judgment zone. I'm not going to judge you for what you did in the past. I'm here to help you thrive going forward. The past is done. We can change the future. And especially in times like this, it's important for people to do that. If people would like to find you, learn more about your bookkeeping services, and chat with you, how can they do that?
Our website is www.onthemoneyaz.com, or phone number 602-675-8921.
And I will put those in the show notes so that it's easy for people to find them and remember. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rocky. Loved it.
Just because someone is an accountant doesn't mean they know how to make you profitable. That's your job. And if you don't want to do it, put someone like Ruth or I on your team to ensure that it gets done. As you heard, business owners who use Profit First are able to pivot and survive during storms, like the one we're currently in. Did you hear how Ruth spends her profit checks? What are you going to do with yours? My goal is your financial success. I've already achieved mine, and I do this because I love it. Yeah, I know, I'm weird. Please use the scheduling link in the show notes to book a few minutes of my time for a free chat about how you can become more profitable. I can also provide a free profit assessment. I don't do sales calls. If you want to work with me, great. If not, that's fine. It has to be hell yes on both our parts. Business owners hire me because they have their zone of genius and they want to focus on that and not handle the things that they hate doing. I only have a few client slots open, so don't wait, because I may be full and I can only help so many people at a time. Nothing's outsourced. You work directly with me. I usually work with business owners who are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. The scheduling link's in the show notes to get on my calendar. If you want to learn about living a life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. Now, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Let's thrive and grow. Have a profitable week.